fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
In motorsport, there will always be a select few who rise to the occasion, and tonight, some of the legends of modern-day motorsport, Scott McLaughlin, Anton De Pasquale, Fabian Coulthard, and many more will battle it out with one major difference to what they do in the real world. Tonight, you can guarantee every single one of them is going to find the fence or bin their rival into the wall. It's the Tuesday night special here on SimSpeed TV at Mount Panorama, and it is 30 laps. If any of them can even make it that far without ending up on their lid, and a fuel cap which will force 2 pit stops, which is sure to make things interesting in the pit lane, which is arguably where we can expect the most overtaking to happen tonight as drivers make their way back with damaged cars. Alongside me for tonight's broadcast, we have Mia Ott and Cam Dance, and I'll go to you first, Cam, because Mount Panorama and GT3s, we're just watching in practice at the moment, and it is creating some interesting moments for some flying cars in there.
Indeed it is. There's a very, very stacked server at the moment. We've got a lot of cars, so it's making some very interesting moments around the mountain in various different corners with cars flying through the air, cars flipping, and yeah, you just pretty much can't describe what's going on. It's a bit of mayhem out there, but going to be some very, very exciting racing.
Yeah, it will be, and we've got an hour of racing coming up, but before we even get to that, we do have a bit of racing to go, or a bit of qualifying, I should say, to go as well. We're looking at 20 minutes of qualifying, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Of course, if you hit the wall in any way, shape, or form, your lap time will be invalidated, so I'm expecting to only have 2 or 3 cars actually set a qualifying time, but at the moment, it is Joshua K. Rogers on top at the moment, and well, Mia, we are looking at a great lineup of drivers. Anton De Pasquale's up there, Jake Burton's up there, Stephen Owen, who isn't too much of a regular when it comes to broadcast and stuff on iRacing. He's here as well. We have a brilliant field, and it is great to see.
Yeah, you've got a lot of the drivers, a lot of what are modern day greats up the top of the field, and you've got some of the really good drivers as well, especially Justin Brugiera, Aussie racing car driver. He's down the back here. I think he's still finding his feet, but other than that, we have what is possibly the greatest top 5 that we've had on broadcast for a while. You've got Rogers, De Pasquale, Jake Burton, Stephen Owen, Scott McLaughlin, Dylan O'Keefe, TCR drivers, supercar drivers, GT drivers. They're all here having what is going to be the blast of their life tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. Even potentially a few rivalries could be out there as well. We even have some series admins as well. Trent Harrison at the moment involved in there, and I was talking to him a bit earlier before this race, and his only expectation was that he was going to make turn 1, and that was about as far as he would probably make it. As you can see, a flurry of action, cars leaving the pit lane. This field is absolutely stacked at the moment, which is great to see, and my timing screen goes down all the way to 51 cars currently, so that is great to see. And a driver's still trying to join the session where they can, as Joshua Carroll Walden has a massive shunt at the top of the hill, and he's going to collect another car, just about misses. So it is just continuing on, and you can see there, that is a very ruined Mercedes AMG, and you're going to be seeing a lot of the Mercedes, because they are the only GT3 available, and it is fixed set 2, so there's no differences for the drivers in terms of setup. They can't make any excuses, so, you know, there's no Penske advantage for the supercar drivers if anyone wants to get a bit aggressive, like Anton De Pasquale, who of course competes for Erebus in real-world supercars, so that will make things a lot closer, Cam.
Yeah, for sure. You've got none of this money issue, none of these throwing technology or any special balance of performance or anything like that. It's all just literally seat of the pants, do the driver thing, and get on with it. There's no setup, no nothing. Literally, the driver is all the thing that's going to make it go quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see just how quick that very multicolored Mercedes of the 92 is. It's just filling the mirrors of Dylan Carroll, and I think we're going to see a pass here. I normally wouldn't say we would, but we might just about see it. Can I just remember, this is practice right now. They are not racing. This is just practice, and Josh Rogers really applying pressure. to the back of Dylan Carroll here, Mia.
I think I thought he was going to look for a bump pass. That's not good. That's not good. Carroll's going to just tap the wall, get it around. There you go. Click a couple gears down, get it back to pit lane, and having fun out of it. I was expecting a bump pass there from Rogers across the mountain, but he didn't. So I wonder who else we've got around at the moment having a bit of fun.
Well, from what I've seen in the practice sessions so far, I think that's the best anyone's actually taken that corner so far. Such is the quality of driving we have seen. As you can see, Rogers now straight back up to the back of the next car. And while doing that pass was actually a lot more difficult than winning the VRS GT World Championship for him. But nonetheless, he is the fastest driver on track at the moment, as Anton De Pasquale is very, very close at the moment. Anton, of course, racing for Penrite Erebus in the supercars, and he does a lot of sim racing himself. And that's one of the interesting things, Cam, isn't it? That a lot of these drivers do actually come from a sim racing background. Scott McLaughlin was winning iRacing official series races long before he was winning supercars races.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the awesome things is you get to see these drivers not only out there doing the real thing, but when they get to come back and sort of to their roots, basically, and actually race against all of us, what you call spectators, is really, really cool. And you just get to sort of try and compare yourself almost and go, hey, I beat him the other day, so props to me, sort of thing.
Well, absolutely. And this series so far, we call it a series, it's very much just a combination of one-off races, essentially. It all started off in the Mercedes, but at a very different circuit at Spa-Francorchamps. And some of the drivers in that field was incredible to see. You had Max Verstappen and even Lando Norris from McLaren F1 team. And also, of course, Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing as well. So some big names are joining into this series, and talking to the guys behind all this this racing at the moment. They are actually, making plans for something to be a lot bigger next season, and they are really looking forward to that. And they've got some backing now, which is great to see from the guys at Simworx Simulations. Of course, you've got the Hype project, which is backing this as well, and that is great to see, as well as Wolfchester. So a lot of guys are coming on board for this series, and it's not hard to see why, Mia, when you do have such big name drivers all flocking in for a single race.
Yeah, exactly. And I personally did the first race of the Mercedes at Spa, the first race of this series, and you had the likes of Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, especially Shane Van Gisbergen, they're all in there having fun. Even though they were faster than me, they're all up there. Everyone that was there was having the time of their life. And well, at the moment, they're just enjoying their last 50 seconds of practice while they get to their into a 20-minute qualifying, which is quote unquote serious. We might see a serious part of tonight, but if it isn't, so be it. They're all here for fun. We're all here to see people wreck in a turn one, that's for sure.
And that's one of the things, we really have to emphasize is these drivers aren't practicing for this. Well, they are right now, but they're only just doing laps. It's all for fun. No one's taking this too seriously, and that is what this set of one-off races is all about. Having fun, jumping in for a race, and going door to door with perhaps some of your heroes. Of course, Scott McLaughlin with quite a lot of fans. You've also got a lot of other drivers as well. And I'm getting distracted by my director because we are hearing, well, I'm seeing for the first time now, a Motum simulation replay. Scott McLaughlin is repping the livery as well, so he's backing the team. And of course, some of you might have seen that he did actually quite recently get a very nice setup as well. And you can see that setup and hardware really doing him well there as he absolutely face plants the tire wall there, Cam.
Yeah, it's he's probably going to be hoping he doesn't do that in the actual race, or even in the actual 1000 this year, because that wouldn't go too well. But we're into qualifying now, so it's time for that quote-unquote serious bit, and we'll see who can get the biggest Fat Max out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of Fat Maxes out on track at the moment, but it's all led away by Jake Burton, of course, was in the Monday Night Official Series just yesterday and was runner-up there, and perhaps controversially second as well, a couple of words after the race. So he's looking for redemption, and just 2 cars back from him, you've got Anton De Pasquale, got Josh Rogers as well. And there are some big names. We'll go through just a couple more as you scroll through. You've got likes of Dylan Carroll, who is very well known in the sim racing community. You've got Dylan O'Keefe and Scott McLaughlin actually toe-to-toe, and we might just focus on them for just a second, Scott McLaughlin and Dylan O'Keefe, because you have different worlds of motorsport coming together. Dylan O'Keefe running in Super 2 and, of course, the TCR Australia Series, and doing very nicely in that as well. And all of us at SimSpeed are looking forward to TCR making an appearance here on the channel as well. But he, right now, Dylan O'Keefe, He's running away from the 2018 Supercars champion. And that says so much about sim racing, where you can get drivers from different worlds all coming together, Mia. And we had that at round 1 as well. Formula 1, you know, meets DTM drivers, NASCAR drivers, supercar drivers. You don't get that anywhere else apart from maybe the Race of Champions event that happens in reality. But otherwise, sim racing is completely unique in that aspect.
Exactly. Sim racing, the only thing that it will cost you is the cost of subscription for iRacing, your simulator, you know, your wheel and your pedal and your desktop, whatever you have. That's all your cost is, because if you reckon this, you don't pay for it, which is a very good thing, because you can get people like Scott McLaughlin, Lando Norris, that can just come in here and they can just have fun, and it will cost them the subscription of iRacing. It is what you would call the most fun you have. It's basically smiles per dollar, really, and iRacing is the maximum of smiles per dollar you can get.
Well, absolutely. Some could even say it's the most fun you can have with your pants on, but I know for a fact there are sim racers who will argue that fact anyway. But nonetheless, we do have our first lap times coming in at the moment as drivers start their first lap times, I should rephrase. And it's interesting to see who's actually going to go for a lap time first. Track conditions are 20 degrees, so a very fast track, which is why in practice we were seeing sub 120-second laps, which is just incredible around this circuit. Of course, we know the real-world supercars can only manage 203s, so very quick lap times as everyone's just trying to get a bit race even in qualifying. You can see Josh Burden there for Fusion Sim Racing, just looking all over the place at the back of Brad Ryan at the moment, who is a very well-known driver in the sim community as well. So lots of big names from sim racing as well, which is good to see. We've already mentioned the likes of Josh Rogers, who won the VRS GT World Championship. You've got Jake Burden, who almost qualified for the Porsche Super Cup as well, and very successful in SimSpeed's own V8 Scops. You've got the likes of Brad Ryan, who we touched on before, very, very successful back in the day, and perhaps looking for more glory as well. And another driver who's quite successful when it comes to sim racing, but not too shabby in a real car either, Justin Ruggier as well. And of course, he was involved in that brilliant Aussie Racing Championship race at Queensland Raceway, which came right down to the wire between himself and Cole Tressida, and unfortunately got a penalty for that. But I can confirm there are no live stewards, so he's safe from penalties tonight, Cam.
There's no live race control, so everybody's pretty much free to do what they want. They can rub panels, they can bang doors, they can pretty much turn each other into the wall if they feel like it. But
and they will.
Yeah, they will, and it's going to be really, really good to see. I mean, obviously, no love lost between any of these drivers, and everybody's here for a bit of fun at the end of the day, so no one's going to really be too mad if they end up in the wall in lap 1, and it's caused a massive shunt.
Oh, absolutely, and there are fast repairs as well, so when that shunt happens, not if it happens, when it happens, they will all be able to get their spare car and go back out on track. See Brad Ryan, they're about to get our first times up on the board, which is good to see there. 2:07 is showing up, and he goes straight to pole position, mainly because he's the only car to set a lap time so far, which is quite beneficial when it comes to qualifying. But lots of drivers will be trying to start a lap time as well, and we might even jump on board for a lap as well in a few moments time when one of our pro drivers does make his way to start a lap. And we'll see what happens. And we might even just jump over now to Scott McLaughlin. He's halfway through the lap, but it's a very tricky section of the lap. So talk us through just what it takes around this second phase of Bathurst, Mia.
Well, as you can see, he's coming now down to the Forestella, one of the most difficult corners in iRacing and also the real life. You've got to try and get it in. You get very close to that exit wall now, the Conrod straight. If you do screw up Forestella, it will affect you down this very, very long, very undulating straight. He's got no one around him at all that uses Slipstream, so it's very good for himself. Not really, maybe, who knows. He come into the chase here. If you want to go straight on, there is a beautiful jump, which they'll use in another race, but into the chase, braking really hard at the 100-meter board. Try and get it to the apex. Not like that, though. You come out of the chase. Use all the road you can out of the chase, under the Arbour Bridge, and then into Murray's Corner. Brake very hard, get the apex, don't hit the curb because you will roll the car all the way to the exit curb, and there's a lap of Mount Panorama, or the second half of Mount Panorama, 2 minutes flat, .794, puts in P3 at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very nice lap time there for Scott McLaughlin, but he will have to go a little bit quicker if he does want to get that pole position, but that is still quicker than what he did in last year's Bathurst 1000, so that's something to brag home about, and maybe even just get Ludo to just analyze that lap and see what can be transferred over to his very own Ford Mustang, which of course a lot of drivers are talking about whether that comes to iRacing or not. We know nothing, but I think if we did, we'd see this driver on track quite a lot more often. But we'll see who else is on a lap at the moment. And Stephen Owen, of course, who has so many starts in this venue in real life, as Scott McLaughlin just gets sent to the absolute shadow realm there. And, well, he just ate the tyre wall sign as well. So that's very unfortunate for Scotty. And that lap comes to an end. But for Stephen Owen, he's going to continue pushing on his lap. But we have to get a replay on what just happened to Scott. Because if that happened in the Scops, not in the Scops, well, if he did the Scops 1000, that would be amazing. But in the real world Bathurst 1000, he would be feeling pretty sore after this one. I just saw his car flying into the wall out of nowhere as a car stopped on track and huge contact, and he just eats the tyre power sign. So for Scott McLaughlin, some new sponsorship there, Cam.
Yeah, it's an interesting venture there that he's had there through the cutting. Unfortunately, probably came through the corner and saw a car there and went, oh dear. So yeah, bit unfortunate. But Stephen Owen currently on screen, coming through the final corner now to finish his lap. Is it going to be a lap time at all? And it will not be. So he's obviously clipped the wall or had an off there somewhere in the lap. So not too ideal of a start so far for Stephen Owen, but he's done it right so far.
No, he absolutely has, and it's great to see him out on track before as well. And Dylan O'Keefe now in third as well, so he is making some nice ground. And he's not the highest placed driver at the moment, as what is going on here at the cutting. I'm going to rename the cutting because it's now just a car park. And they've done a better job than I did in the 2017 Scops 1000. And we'll see how on earth this has happened. You can see they are racing side by side into the section. Saw themselves out though, and just so sideways for James Mackay. But it was actually a multiple car. Well, it was multiple single car accidents there that actually caused that. So it's all going on at the moment, Mia.
Yeah, it's qualifying. They're all acting like it's the pre-race. Because don't forget, we've got a 15 minutes qualifying race, quote unquote, and we've got the 60-minute feature. The 15-minute race will probably involve a lot more shunts, a lot more memeing, and then we've got the 1 hour main event towards the end. But at the moment, we look at our qualifying sheets. We have a Michael Hammond on the top, a Jay Cool second, and our first pro driver on that list, Mr. Anton Di Pasquale, in third. Only a 10th.5 back from Michael Hammond. So times will drop, but I think the Fat Maxes will come out towards this second bit of this qualifying session.
Yeah, but that all depends how many car parks there are on track, and at the moment there could be a couple, but one person who wants to avoid that is the guy on screen at the moment who isn't on a hot lap by the looks of it, just wanting to warm the tyres up a little bit. But this is a very high-speed section of track, so you're pretty brave if you want to warm the tyres up. Here is Justin Rougier, but we know how brave he is. One of the most aggressive drivers in the Aussie racing cars field that you will ever see, but also one of the most competitive. And when it comes to sim racing, he's always been competitive, he's always been quick, and tonight he has a chance to showcase that. And so many drivers, like we touched on before, have actually been able to translate their skills from sim racing to real racing, as well. As we just take a look at Dylan O'Keefe at the moment making his way through a lap. But you think to the likes of Richie Stanaway, who spent so much time on iRacing earlier in his career and even made it into the World Championship Series through the Pro Qualifier Series, and he described that as some of the most mentally stressful racing he has ever done, which says a lot when you consider just how much Richie Stanaway has achieved in his career, Cam.
Oh, 100%. Obviously, Richie, a very accomplished driver. Unfortunate to break his back when he did. Well, on the way to Formula 1, as he very well could have made it there. But like you said, he's had that experience of being at the pro level of what some of these guys have done. And it's very stressful. I mean, even doing it myself, it was on a little bit different level, but very stressful. You've literally got to hit your marks and do everything perfect. There's no room for error or anything like that. So yeah, it's a very taxing experience on yourself, as now O'Keefe just comes through the final corner to try and get another lap in. What's it going to be? A little bit quicker, and that's 2:00, 2 minute flat .455.
A very nice lap time there by Dylan O'Keefe, but stays in 6th spot for now, as Jake Burton, currently the only driver below the 122nd bracket. But for how long is that going to be? Because that mighty 17, as some could describe it as, is on a lap now as well. But there are multiple cars making their way through. Of course, Steve Owen doesn't even have a lap time at the moment, so he's got a lot of work to do. And Anton Di Pasquale, who, you know, we talk about him being a part of Erebus. What we haven't touched on is he's a part of Evolution Racing Team as well. And of course, he was there when I was at Evolution Racing Team as well. And I can tell you, when it comes to just practice sessions, just warming up for a race, Anton is one of the most competitive, fierce, and aggressive drivers you will find. He just loves to be on top of the timing sheet. So if you're doing full fuel runs and, you know, trying to maximize long runs, he will still jump on qualifying fuel and try and beat you, Mia.
Yeah, he's I think some would call a very skilled at the art of fat maxing, but at the moment he's only on an outlap, so he's still got another half a lap, quarter of a lap to go, and then he'll be on his full-on blast for what will be, he's hoping, a 119-second lap. But no one at the moment, there's not really been a lot of movement in that top 5 on the sheets, but Dick Pasquale sitting P4, but that Mighty 17 is P6, so who will take pole? At the moment it'll be Jake Bird, but we still have another 8 minutes left of the session, so anything will happen. There might be a lot more car park. You know, who knows? Who knows?
Well, one of the beautiful things about it is currently, if you just set a lap time, doesn't matter if it's a 3-minute lap time, you're still going to be 34th on the grid. And whilst that might not be a great starting position, it is a great field size. That is a brilliant thing to have, as we get drivers just making their way through a lap now. But there are so many drivers that don't even have a lap time at all at the moment. You look to the likes of Ethan Warren, who isn't on the board. You've got the likes of Brady Baldwin without a lap, Matthew Trotman, Joshua K. Rogers would be one of the bigger names without a lap time, and he's just about to set up for a lap. So we'll see what Joshua can, of course, do. And from all of us at SimSpeed, I know I've said it a couple times, but I'll say it again, of course, being an Australian, very proud of him to be the first ever road racing world champion on iRating, which is a huge deal for him. And he's going to abort his way into the pit lane, so still no lap time here. So I've got to wonder at this point, Mia, if Josh is going for a last to first challenge.
I would not be surprised one bit if he is going for a last to first challenge, or he might be just doing the usual, you know, do a lot of laps, burn some fuel, come in, take a fresh set of tyres, and then go out and storm the field because, you know, you really like to show off your fat max skills. But he's into the pits, and I think he's going to go for a fresh set of booties and go on for a very quick lap.
Yep, well, that sounds good for him, and we'll see what he can do as Stephen Owen comes across the line and still doesn't set a lap time. So for Steve Owen, he is currently 4 from 4, and that lap time, if he had actually set it, would have got him all the way up to 5th. So the pace is there for Stephen Owen. I don't know why I said that. We always knew he would be quick, but he just can't stay off the walls at the moment. Just any little touch will invalidate your lap time. So that is where he would be struggling at the moment, as more drivers continue to set lap times, just get new boots on their car, and go and attack once again at this Mount Panorama circuit, which is arguably the most known of them all here in the iRacing Australian community. So if anyone has experience around here, it is the Australian sim racing drivers. So that's where they've got the advantage on perhaps the pro drivers, who only get to drive it once or twice a year. And Scott McLaughlin, of course, wanting to win it this year, is just about to wind up for yet another lap, just letting some traffic through, which was actually Stephen Owen, who is really attacking at the moment, using every millimeter of road. And we'll see what he can do as the car plunges downhill in this very aggressive section, staying away from the walls this time, but gets very close to the wall at the dipper, makes the run down now through this very fast section where Chaz Mostert, of course, had a massive shunt in 2014, get the car stopped and rotated through Forest Elbow and get the power on. And I haven't seen him hit a wall so far in this lap, as Michael Hammond becomes the second driver to go sub 120 seconds here. But for Stephen Owen, this could be finally the time to get him on the board, Cam.
Yeah, it sure could. He's not got too bad of a run out of Forest Elbow, so heading down into the chase section, we'll see how brave he's going to be on the brake pedal, braking as late as he dares at the 100-meter ball, pulls it up very nicely, uses a bit of curb, a good measure to get the thing turned in. Nice exit coming down towards Murray's Bend. Is he going to brake as late as he dares once again? Yes, he does. Not using any curb on the left-hand side. A little bit slow at the apex, but doesn't seem to have hurt him too bad. We'll see what the lap time is. If it doesn't decount, and it doesn't.
Oh, Stephen, what are you doing? He's got to set a lap time, but he is just getting lap times on the board now. But I'm actually just looking at the clock, and we're down to just 4 minutes and 10 seconds, which is an issue because Well, if he doesn't abort very, very quickly, he's going to run out of time to even get a new set of tires and have one last-ditch effort. So he might just be trying to run the tank dry or something of that nature, but it's not going all too well for him at the moment. So we'll see who else we can find on a lap time at the moment. Dylan O'Keefe has just come across the start-finish line. What can he do? Currently sitting in 8th spot, which isn't too bad for him, but there are a lot of sim racers who haven't got a time on the board at the moment, which is a shame to see. One of them is actually Ethan Warren, who isn't going to be setting a lap time at the moment. Matthew Trotman also not setting a time, but the biggest talking point still has to be Josh Rogers, who is in the pits and not looking like he's heading out on track anytime soon. So that's going to be interesting to see for him, just how far he can make his way through the field and what he can do. So for the VRS GT World Champion, it's going to be a very tricky race unless there is a massive shunt he can somehow avoid, Mia.
Yep, I think he'll be preying on his laurels that he'll try and get through the field, you know, without a big incident in front of him or him causing one. But with less than 3 minutes left on the clock, he'll want to go out either now or in the next 30 seconds, or else we will call him done for the qualifying session, as everyone else is out on track bar a few cars. So he's got a bit of a crowd behind him sitting in pit lane. I think either waiting for the session to run down or waiting for the last minute attempt to go out and do one more lap. You can see a couple of cars behind him having to come out of pits now. But at the moment, Ron Bull with Scott McLaughlin is down Conrod straight. He is trying to go to set another lap time. Well, actually, sorry, he's all the way now down at Murray's Corner. I don't know what I'm talking about. Out of Murray's Corner.
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of corners to remember, but for Scotty McLaughlin, that is going to move him up. No, it doesn't. So a 2-minute 0.4 for him. Current fastest is a 2-minute 0.3. So he's lapping very consistently, but no one able to match Jake Burton at the moment, who still stands up tall on that first spot. And Josh Rogers officially not going to get a lap time in now. But what can Anton De Pasquale do? We know how quick he is. We know how competitive he can be. And if he can get below the 1-minute 20, the 2-minute barrier, there we go. I get words out of my mouth, but we'll see what he can do across a line at a 59.4. Anton De Pasquale goes to the top, and Jake Burton, well, you're not on pole anymore, but can Jake respond? The answer is no. I don't think, because he got very close to the wall, could have invalidated his lap. But it looks like he is continuing to push on. We're seeing more drivers make their way up. Dylan Carroll gets himself up to 11th. Robert Crisdale works his way up to 15th as well. So the timing screens are beginning to light up as Josh Haynes goes into the top 21 as well. But for Jake Burton, we will focus on him. Under brakes hard at the chase. Doesn't use any of the curbs. Stiffly sprung car is the Mercedes AMG. So you don't want to use too much of the curbs, even though it is probably the best of the GT3s for it. Final corner now for Jake Burton. He has a 59.5 to beat. What can he do across the start-finish line at 59.6? He got close, but not close enough, Cam.
Yeah, not quite close enough. Not enough fat max out just yet. He'll try again one more time probably, but another driver on their lap, Dylan O'Keefe, although he's just put it in the wall, so he will abort that lap. But so far, so good for a number of drivers. Few drivers obviously opting to probably start rear field, which wouldn't be a bad idea with what the possibility of carnage will unfold. But nevertheless, we'll see, as Owens actually managed to put a lap in and got to 14th. So really good job from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see him get a time on the board. And also a quick hello to our friends at TCR Australia. Good to see they are tuning in for the stream to cheer on Dylan O'Keefe. Of course, he is currently 9th spot at the moment. And if you follow the iRacing Sim Racing community, you will know that Will Brown recently was interested in a setup as well. So he might be joining on the grid as well. So if you are a fan of the TCR Australia series, well, you've got plenty to be interested here on SimSpeed TV with TCR coming to iRacing in the next month or so. So if you do like your TCR action, be sure to subscribe and we will have all of that coverage for you. But right now the coverage turns to Anton De Pasquale, who is going to be leading this one from pole position. And I'm just looking at the session details. It's apparently going to be a 7-lap first heat. Apparently there is a heat race in this. I was not aware of this. But, of course, there is a qualifying race. So I'm actually forgetting the rules here, Mia. But for these drivers, they do, in fact, have a qualifying race to set the grid. So this isn't for points. This isn't for any bragging rights. All it's going to get you is the front row grid slot for the final.
Yep, it'll all be about how far can you take your car before you either shunt the wall or someone shunts you. But at the moment, Di Pasquale and Burden have got the best positions they can for this race into turn 1. It could be the worst, it could be the best, who knows? But you've also got people like Stephen Owen and Joshua Rogers deep within that mid-pack. So will we see a car park at the cutting? Will it be better than Bo Albert's car park? Who knows? We'll see here in the next 50 seconds.
Well, absolutely. So let's see how this all unfolds. Cars are on the grid, and what a grid it is. Of course, not everyone is currently gridded up, but there are currently 62 cars who could make their way to the start, which, if you are a bit confused on where that puts you, well, it doesn't even put you on the start-finish straight. It puts you all the way back at the Armorall Bridge, right towards the chase. So that is a long way back if you are someone like Will Neville, who wants to make his way through this grid, but it is great to see so many drivers full of talent spread their way through the entire way. But I'm starting to hear some cars fire up a little bit louder, so it's about to get loud here at Mount Panorama. We have a 62-car grid for 7 laps for this first qualifying race. Anton Di Pasquale on pole position, ahead of Toyota 86 driver Jake Burden, and it's a standing start in GT3s. And who is going to get the traction control down nicely? It looks like Dylan O'Keefe getting very racy down the start-finish straight. Already looking at Scott McLaughlin. Contact between those two right down your mid-pack. But for our leaders, it is all plain sailing. But Dylan O'Keefe getting very racy instantly with Scott McLaughlin side by side down Mountain Straight, weaving by Dylan O'Keefe. Of course, you have to do it in a TCR car. Mercedes a little bit different. Bump drafting there for Scott McLaughlin, pushing his way all the way through turn number 2. Will they all make it? So far, so good. But it is a very big fear. So will they all make it through turn number 2? But it is on for your race lead at the moment. Jake Burden continuing to hunt down Anton Di Pasquale. Michael Hammond having a brilliant run of results at the moment. He's up there as well, your top 3. Jay Cool and Bailey Sweeney, your top 5. So lots of big name drivers making their way through. But that top 5 has really broken away, which is great to see. As we are seeing a couple of drivers shuffling around as Graham Filand involved in an incident. That's caused a bit of a check-up there further down in your field. So a couple of drivers already finding contact here at Mount Panorama. Justin Rougier is also out as well. So how did this happen? Motorsport Simulation is up on screen, and Zach Bates, they're going for a gap that wasn't quite there. Contact is made, and around he goes, and that is very unfortunate for him. And unfortunately, his race will be done. So it's very, very tricky to get this opening lap done nicely. But for our leaders, they've managed just that, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. That top 5 or so, in fact 6, is actually pretty much broken away. Scott McLaughlin not too far behind though, but now on for the lead. Jake Burton going to go up the inside of the chase, side by side through the chase with Anton Di Pasquale. Di Pasquale is going to get latest on the brakes, but Burton's going to try and get the front bit of contact for Burton with the car of Michael Hammond. So Hammond's gone on through, but now rest of the field has managed to file on through by the looks of it. No real incidents, but for the time being, Anton Di Pasquale and his in the wall at the Armorall Bridge, and everybody having to avoid it, and big incident.
Absolutely massive incident, and Mia, you saw a little bit of it. What happened is I'm seeing Will Longmore went for a
they're still going. They're still going. There's multiple cars. One's in the fence. They're both in the fence. They're all in the fence. Get the safety codes out. They're all still fighting. And Josh Rogers, believe it or not, is in that wreck. They're still going. They are still wrecking. There's at least 20 cars. That is millions and millions and millions of dollars of damage right there, but they're all back going again. I think I didn't see the cause of it, but I'll say this right now: when you are at the back of the field, it's a bit hard to check up at the Armorall Bridge, and a lot of people got involved in that. And sadly, some of their qualifying races have been ruined. But who cares? Oh, there's another one.
One at the beginning. Griffin's Bend, sorry.
There's another one at Griffin's Bend, but I think they're all going now. There's only the one car I saw spun, but other than that, they're also going. Oh, there's a car in the wall. John Morris is still going to keep it going though. So there's a lot of cars with damage trying to find their way around after that massive wreck at the Armorall Bridge.
Yeah, they certainly are. So we'll see how they can all regroup. But we go back on board at the moment with Jake Burton, who's fallen behind Michael Hammond. So if he wants any chance of fighting Anton Di Pasquale, he's got to find a way past The Australian-New Zealand driver, Michael Hammond, at the moment, 0.3 of a second is the margin, but we know that it's going to close up all the way down Conrod Straight, one of the most famous passing opportunities when it comes to the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. But at the moment, it is not enough for Jake Burton. The slipstream just not quite close enough, well, not helpful enough to get him anywhere near attacking Michael Hammond. So if anyone wants to attack the Supercars driver, it's up to Michael Hammond at the moment. But at the moment, Jake Cool is trying to make a pass happen as well to get into your top 5. He's attacking Brian Sweeney, but at the moment, Dylan Carroll is attacking Dylan O'Keefe, who gets all kinds of out of shape into the final corner, holds it onto the circuit though, and continues to hold his spot in the top 10. So Dylan O'Keefe still doing a good job, but it's only going to get a little bit tricky as that was Michael Hammond, I think, getting out of shape at the exit of turn number 1, and that gives Jake Burton a massive run, almost door banging between the two for second place down Mountain Straight, and Jake Burton completely swipes across on Michael Hammond. Hammond thinks about diving out the inside, and contact is made, and they're running each other off the road, and out of nowhere, 4th place, Joshua Burton is going to buy in on this and potentially be the winner of it all side by side. That is not the place you want to do it, and Jake Burton fires it back at the cutting. But Anton Di Pasquale, he might not have won in Townsville, but Mount Panorama for a 7-lap race, qualifying race, could be about to be his crowning moment, Mia.
Yep, and that little check up there before, Burton nearly had a 2-in-1 hit, but sadly they both denied him. But Anton Di Pasquale is all going, but he's got a lap car there stuck in the wall, I think, maybe stuck on top of the mountain there. I think he's going to stay there, but they're all still going. The top 5 gets around with ease, down to the dipper, down to the Forest Elbow. Di Pasquale has got nearly a 1 second advantage to Hammond and Burton in behind. Burton is in tow. Very confusing, those 3rd and 4th place names, but we'll get through it. You can see more. And Scotty McLaughlin on the Mighty 17 is closing on Jay Cool in front. Closing, looks to move down to the left-hand side of that Mercedes, but he'll get it done. Yes, he will. Cool will let him go with ease, so that puts McLaughlin into the top 5.
Well, if you're going to follow anyone around Mount Panorama, Scott McLaughlin is not the worst candidate. I can think of it as I was seeing a little bit of contact over the hill there. And Bryce McDonald, well, I don't know where he's going, but I can tell you right now, that is a very aggressive rejoin, and doesn't end up taking anyone with him. Of course, racing standards are a little bit lower than perhaps usual. And if you're wondering why that is, and if you're just tuning in, of course, this is just a fun night for the drivers to get to race around with some drivers they otherwise wouldn't. So you've got the likes of Anton Di Pasquale, Scott McLaughlin, Dylan O'Keefe, just to name a few, and even Stephen Owen is somewhere in the field. Of course, he got that move done to get himself in the qualifying order. He was struggling for a long time to get that lap time set, but he got it managed in the end, and continues to race around at the moment. But unfortunately for Justin Rougier, his race came to a pretty early night, and Josh Rogers as well. Of course, it's only the qualifying race, but his car is looking more than second hand. But despite that, he has still moved up 15 spots from his qualifying position count.
Yeah, he's done very, very good to make up the number of positions that he has, despite the damage. So it's of no surprise that he's managed to do that. Obviously, being a now VRS GT World Championship on iRacing, it's definitely something not easy to achieve, but he's managed to get the job done nevertheless with his fellow Co-Ender SimSport teammates, and just showing how much talent he really does have at the moment, obviously being now in P27.
Yeah, absolutely, and still seeing what they can do at the moment. Trent Harrison is involved in a battle at the moment as well. He's trying to run away from Liam Jacobs over the top of the hill as they make their way through the dipper, getting very close to the wall. And of course, he is running in the Wolfchester livery, and we have to give a shout out to Wolfchester, who are proudly supporting this race, and it's great to have that kind of backing on an event like this. So a big shout out to all the guys there, and he's really much enjoying this race at the moment. And he's one of the guys who came up with this concept, which allows drivers like Dylan O'Keefe to go side by side with Jay Cool through the chase, and out of nowhere a huge dive bomb, and Dylan O'Keefe is going to go surfing through the grass there at the chase, and an aggressive rejoin for himself as well. But that was really tight racing there into that section of track, and Dylan O'Keefe has to surf the slowdown as we get a Modem Simulation replay up on screen. Big shout out to Modem Simulation with their 6 degrees of freedom simulators who are sponsoring this one. You can see Dylan O'Keefe getting very racy, a lot quicker than he does in the Alfa Romeo in the TCR Australia series. And then just out of nowhere, the 55 car comes in like an absolute steam train and makes contact with the 40 car. And Dylan O'Keefe comes the worst of that, which is not ideal for him. But he is chasing down Phil Letchford at the moment. And I will see what he can do to progress his way up the order. But for Jake Burton, he is in clean air now. He has a chance to claw back that gap to Anton De Pasquale. It's come down by 1/10 of a second already this lap. But for Anton, with just 3 laps to go in this qualifying race, he might just have the margin he needs.
Yep, last lap time, Burton was the only one under the 120-second barrier, 59.9 for him, while Anton had a 2 flat 0.1. So that battle for the lead at this qualifying race will heat up as we go on. Down the mountain they go, through the S, into the dipper. Hammond is in hot pursuit of Burton, but he's also going to worry about Joshua Burton behind him. And then a 2.5 back from Burton is Mr. Scott McLaughlin. So the top 5 is spread out a tiny bit, but it could be very interesting as we come down to this last lap or last 2 laps of this race.
Absolutely, a big shout out to all of you watching on Facebook Live, looking at the comment section. Good to see you guys all chatting along and getting interested in this as well. If you do want to get involved, well, all you have to do is have an iRacing account, and on Tuesday night, it is open to anyone. There's no minimum requirements. There is no anything to get yourself into this field. It's just purely get in, be one of the first drivers to get into this, and away you go, and you can be racing with the likes of Scott McLaughlin and Anton De Pasquale, which is awesome to have that kind of accessibility in the community. So big shout out once again to all the guys who are running this. But at the moment, Scott McLaughlin holds the 5th spot, but Bailey Sweeney, a driver we don't see all too often, is really trying to make a race of this at the moment, which is great to see, Mia.
Yeah, exactly. And Burton, we just got word, Burton has got the fastest lap, another 59.9, so he's gone purple. He's got that gap under by half a second. And we'll have a replay of what looks to be on screen.
Maybe not able to see that there for Mia, but you can see big contact for Ben McClellan and across the track, right in front of Josh Rogers. Lucky not to collect him as well. So for Ben, that is quite unfortunate for him, his race to end that way. So a disaster there to go on board with Dylan Carroll, who chases down Jay Cool across the top of the mountain. And Cam, if you are catching someone at Mount Panorama, there are plenty of places to make a pass, but unfortunately, top of the mountain just isn't one.
No, it isn't, although you can make it one if you do try hard enough. So it depends on how much of a risk you want to take. But at the moment, looking at that gap between Dylan Carroll and Jay Cool, it's looking like it's a little bit too big to try and throw one up the inside. But Carroll doing a really, really good job so far in this race, up to P8 from P12 where he started. So he's done really, really well to have the pace that he is. Obviously, doesn't do too much sim racing, but when he does quite all right. He's got a solid run it down onto Conrad out of Forest Elbow now, so we have some very, very good drafting, and then he'll be on the hunt for Bailey Sweeney once he gets past Jay Cool.
Yeah, absolutely, and this could be his opportunity now down Conrad Straight, very close between the two, but Jay Cool just does not have the straight line speed, but he has to keep his cool because he is right now going side by side through the chase, which is a very risky part of the track to be making it side by side, but he just backs out in the end and decides discretion is the better part of valor, as I think that was Anton De Pasquale there, getting a little bit out of shape through the final corner, which helps reduce the gap to 0.7 of a second there. So for Jake Burton, he is closing and quickly. He wasn't quite below 2 minutes on that lap, but he was still the quickest car on track by some 0.3 over Anton De Pasquale, and we do have Michael Hammond on a 2-minute 0.2 as well, trying to go with these guys, but he will just run out of time and not be close enough. So that's unfortunate for him, but look at Dylan O'Keefe. He's right up behind Phil Letchford, side by side down Mountain Straight, but again, doesn't have the legs when he pulls out. He can get close. He can get right up to passing distance on Phil Letchford, but the second he pulls out to go for a move, the speed is not there in his Mercedes AMG. Of course, if you are just tuning in, it is fixed setup, so there are no setup changes they can make to their car. Everyone is in identical cars, identical machinery, so it really is down to driver talent, and at the moment the talent is all in the hands of the number 53 car, Jake Burton. Gap down to 0.6 of a second, almost down to half a second, and well, we know that means one thing, Cam, and that means down Conrad Straight, you're in the slipstream.
Absolutely, and Burton is going to be not holding anything back. He's going to give it 110% into Forest Elbow they come now. Is he going to get the run? A little bit of a slide out of the exit. He didn't quite get the run there, so this might just compromise him a little bit down Conrad, but he'll still have a bit of draft, so we'll see what he can possibly do with this draft and whether he's going to be able to try and get a move done into the chase if he gets close enough, or even into the final corner as we are on the last lap. So going to really have to try his hardest if he wants pole position for this lap. Brakes as late as he dares, gets very close to the back of that Mercedes, just ahead of him of Anton De Pasquale. It's probably not quite going to be close enough. He's going to look to the inside, not quite going to be close enough to get the move done, and Anton De Pasquale will be your sprint race winner.
Absolutely a great drive by Anton De Pasquale. Takes the checkered flag for Erebus Motorsport. Jake Burton threw everything he had, including the kitchen sink at Anton De Pasquale, but it wasn't quite enough. Michael Hammond, a great result to come home in third. Joshua Burton and Scott McLaughlin, your top five. And well, for Dylan O'Keefe, he really tried to get out top 10, but just wasn't enough in the end. And it wasn't to be. Josh Rogers looks like he will only be down in 21st place for your main race. Of course, if you thought that was exciting, if you thought that was chaotic, that was just the qualifying race. We have an entire feature race yet to come here on SimSpeed TV. If you're watching on Facebook, be sure to give it a like, give it a share. If you are watching on YouTube as well, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because we have plenty more coming for the Tuesday night special. There is no minimum requirements at all. Anyone can jump in and race with your idols that you watch every weekend on TV in whatever category they may race in. But for now, the countdown timer does start for drivers to get their way back onto the circuit and make their way ready for the feature race. But I'll quickly throw to you, Mia, because what were your thoughts on that first race, which ended up so chaotic?
If you thought that was the feature race, you haven't seen anything yet. We still have another 30 laps or an hour to go tonight. 2 stops will be required from these drivers, or 3 depending on how many accidents and car parks are happening in this 1 hour race. But if you want to watch racing like this in any other cars, V8s, anything, please go and like SimSpeed TV right now on Facebook. Go to the YouTube channel, go subscribe, because this is the place to see the best in Australia go at it, and they are now gridding up for what is the feature race. 1 hour, 30 laps, 2 stops. Who will be king?
That is the question, but there could also be a queen as well. Of course, anyone is open to race in this series at the moment, but it is Anton De Pasquale who's going to be on pole for a 61 car field. So only one driver didn't take the race start there, which was Will Longmore, who we saw have a monster accident in practice. So maybe just has a little bit of a headache there at the moment. So we'll see how he goes in this next one, if he does decide to take the grid at all. But the drivers, like you said, Mia, are beginning to just line up on the grid, which is great to see. And it's only going to be interesting to see how this race pans out, because just like you alluded to, Cam, just a little bit earlier before, there are 2 pit stops in this race, which opens up an entirely new dynamic to this race.
Oh, for sure. And it's another thing that the driver's going to have to remember, is that you've got to hit your marks in the pit entry. You can't afford to make a mistake. We've also got 1 competition caution, so going to be interesting. But revs are rising and we're about to go green. Green flag in the air. We're underway, and another solid start from Michael Hammond, actually, and he's nearly got the jump on Anton De Pasquale, but De Pasquale is going to go defensive. Burton's going to go around the outside, and McLaughlin's actually starting from pit lane, so not too bad of a strategy possibly from McLaughlin, but at the moment, front of the field, doing really, really well, and Jake Burns managed to get ahead of Michael Hammond.
Yeah, he has. Well, he obviously was ahead on the grid, but Michael Hammond with a great start, using the traction control exactly how he wanted to, but Jake Burton getting raced with Anton De Pasquale around the outside, not able to do it, and is all kinds of out of shape on the exit there as they funnel their way through, heading towards the cutting on lap number 1. You can see jostling in the background, Josh Rogers involved in that battle pack as well, who's made a blistering start. He started 19th. My timing screen is showing him currently in 14th place. That is remarkable start there. Up 7 spots as well is Ben McMillan. And there are a lot of drivers making the moves. Matthew P. Johnson up 11 at the moment, so lots of changes. We have our first wreck. The 11 car goes hard into the wall, and that will be Joshua Davies' day over, and he causes a track blockage at the top of the mountain, but heading down the mountain is Anton De Pasquale, Jake Burton, Michael Hammond, Joshua Burton, and Bailey Sweeney. Your top 5 in a 40-car grid that took the field in the end. So we had a potential of 61. We will end up with 40 for a 30-lap race, or 1 hour of racing. Whatever comes first, probably going to be 1 hour, because those 2 pit stops are really going to mix this race up as we head down Conrod Straight for the first time in this race. And Jake Burton getting all kinds of racy. He did have damage to his car in the qualifying race. That has all been fixed in between the gap we had, which means he can go full attack into the chase. Looks around the outside, not able to do it at the moment, so he's going to continue pushing on the back of the 15 car. Anton, of course, representing Evolution Racing Team in the sim world, and Erebus in the real world, and Jake Burton just looking for gaps that just aren't quite there at the moment, Mia.
He's looking for gaps there. He's waiting for them to open, but he's also going to look in his mirror because Hammond is there, ready and waiting to pounce whenever there is a gap that Burton will open. But at the moment, De Pasquale's all just trying to keep everything shut, keep every opportunity that Burton wants shut. Same with Hammond and Burton as well behind. Sweeney's a little bit far back. He's got to focus on Jay Cool because Cool is trying to go from him around the outside, but up front, De Pasquale had to defend there into Griffins, and through the cutting they come, but Burton's going to fall a little bit far behind here. What will he do here into the cutting? He'll get close, but not too close enough. Now they come up the mountain. It's not really an overtaking spot, but will we see one at Skyline? Maybe, maybe not.
Well, that is one of the questions, but we'll see what happens as Jake is getting so racy at the moment, right underneath the rear wing of Anton as they make their way through this incredibly fast section. You see just how close they're getting to the wall. I think Bailey Sweeney there a little bit too close for comfort. And a lot of drivers have been making some very nice progress at the moment. Josh Rogers actually makes a pass at the top of the mountain. We said in the qualifying race, Cam, you can't make a move there. What do I know? Josh Rogers makes his way up another spot there with a brilliant move on James Mackay, who is no slouch. James Mackay, a very talented driver, but Josh Rogers, like he was passing still there, is doing a brilliant job, and he is up 9 spots right now. Dylan O'Keefe is up 3 as well. So the TCR Australia driver, shout out to everyone watching on the TCR Australia Facebook page. He's making some brilliant ground as well. So he is using his experience very nicely in this close combat racing, which you do get in TCR Australia all the time. But Dylan Carroll is making something happen. Anton De Pasquale and James Burton are off the road, and that is massive for this race. And how on earth did that happen? A motion simulation replay is coming up on screen in any moment now, and Anton De Pasquale immediately into the pit lane to try and get some damage done, take the first of his pit stops. But this is where the race has kicked off instantly. Jake Burton was getting so aggressive. He knew he had to make a move somewhere, and we can see Anton there just getting so close between the two, and that was massive contact for the two of them. Jake Burton coming off considerably worse, and Cam, looking at that, I think the angle that Jake Burton was hit at, there's going to be some pretty large suspension damage on his car. You can just see there, bang into the side, and the 53 car is surely going to be feeling the effects of that one.
Yeah, that was a very, very unfortunate incident. Unlimited fast speeds though, so no issue, plus the competition caution, so they will luck into it later into this race. They'll just have to time their pit stops and everything properly, but really unfortunate there. A little bit of a racing incident, more or less, but Burton was going to have to send it at some point. He didn't expect it to send at that point, but ended up having that incident, and now he's going to have to work his way through the field.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's very interesting. You just saw a camera shot there the director alluded to very quickly there. Jake Burton and Anton De Pasquale come out on track, very close proximity to Scott McLaughlin as well. So that's very interesting to see how that is going to pan out. Of course, those two always racing together in the real world. How will they fare in the virtual world? The answer at the moment, though, is that it is all sunshines and rainbows for Michael Hammond, leading on lap number 3 with a pretty handy lead over Josh Burton, but he hasn't quite broke that slipstream at the moment. So the top 3 will probably condense down into a very nice fight over the next 30 laps, or 27 that are left at the moment. The laps ticking down very quickly, but look at Dylan O'Keefe around the outside, almost contact there. That was really close with Jay Cool, and again Jay Cool keeps his cool in the ACTA ASP sponsored car, and the 40 of Dylan O'Keefe makes the move stick, but he had to work for that very aggressively. And just looking in the background of shot, you have the 92 car, Josh Rogers, continuing his charge. He is now currently 13 spots up the order. And looking at the predictive timing screens at the moment, if Josh Rogers can keep this pace up, he can still win this race. 4.5 seconds off the back of your race leader, and he is 0.3 quicker for fastest lap than anybody else at the moment. So Josh Rogers, he started all the way down the order, could still be in for a race win, which is just incredible to think about, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really pushing hard. He's done so well so far, and he's just showing how quick he really is, and the fact that he really does deserve that World Championship title, and goes for a move up the inside of the cutting. So that's another position for Rogers. Still trying to find positions, and he's still going to continue to do that. So would not be surprised if he does actually manage to get into first by the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know how quick he is. We know what he can achieve. So for Josh Rogers, well, it's all about how fast can he move up the order, because of course the longer, as he does a little bit of lawn mowing there at the top of the mountain, the longer he stays behind these drivers, the quicker and quicker Michael Hammond has the opportunity to break away. And he was the quickest car on track last lap around, with Rogers having traffic, but for outright speed, he isn't quite able to match that 92 car. So very interesting to see how this will all boil down at the end of the race. Jake Burton trying to make ground, of course, after that opening lap, well, not opening, but not a second lap incident, sorry, as I get my words jumbled up, incident with Anton De Pasquale. He's trying to chase down, a big crash there, and Burton actually almost involved in it. And I'm trying to work out who that was. I think it was Andre Burrell there who got involved in that, but big contact there. And we'll see a replay in just a few moments' time as we try and work out who the driver involved was. But Jake Burton, so lucky not to get tangled up in that. And that could have been race defining for him. Modem simulation replay up on screen. And you just caught a glimpse there. Big contact for one of your drivers. And Jake Burton squeaks through. And no damage to his car, which is good news for him in this race. And we're just looking at Andre Burrell, try and figure out who it was. I think it was the car, the white car, just in front of Burton and the driver he's battling with. So we'll see if that can actually eventuate and we get a clear shot of what happened there to the driver who made large contact and had his race come to an unfortunate end on lap number 5, and just dipping the car through the compression and bang into the wall. Jake, actually, you could see a bit of a jolt in the steering wheel, got as close as he could to the inside wall just to take avoiding action there, Mia.
Yep, he tried his hardest, but sadly the car had other ideas. Into the wall he went. But at the moment, it looks to be McLaughlin and Anton, they are real life rivals, but in the sim at the moment, they're trying their hardest. It is the Mighty 17 versus the Erebus driver, who will come out on top as they come through Griffins here. The only thing that is separating these two is their skill, and at the moment, De Pasquale is having a bit of a pace advantage over McLaughlin cutting they go. So will we see a move maybe into the Forest Elbow or into the chase, or will we see another punt to pass? We'll find out here very shortly. Through Solomon Park they come.
Well, this is a battle we haven't seen in the real world supercars, but this is the battle we very much get in sim racing. But at the moment, Anton De Pasquale, who has a lot more recent experience in sim racing, is definitely looking like the quicker of the two at the moment. Scott McLaughlin just going defensive in a few places. And that is where things are going to get very interesting. Where does Scott McLaughlin's real-world experience help him in this battle pack, as Dylan O'Keefe's real-world experience isn't helping him at all? Josh Rogers makes another spot up to 5th place. 16 spots gained for Rogers. And we're seeing another pass happening up on screen at the moment. But that's very close, too close. Goodbye. You're in the wall and spinning around to chase Glenn Wood. He's about to have the crash of his life and bang into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see a crash, well, that's the best way to do it. Straight into the tyre wall. Of course, sponsored by Wolfchester. Was his car a great partner to have on board for this series? But unfortunately, there's the Motorsport simulation highlight reel for him. Big contact there with the driver he was fighting with. And I have to say that was just about a big enough gap. And unfortunately, it's the smallest contact between the two. And they both went spearing off the road, Mia.
Yeah, it was all about a bit of a contact just before the chase, and you are doomed for the wall no matter what. Sadly, he got the wall and he got it hard front. This time he got the tyre barrier, sadly, not like for the Black Swan car, the 12 hour this year. But we go back to live, and at the moment, it is a very, very spicy battle still going on, and Di Pasquale was actually gone past, and McLaughlin's in the pits. So that battle's gone, and he's out of the pits now. So that's one of his 2 pit stops over with. So we've just got to now start looking for the other drivers out on track. When will they stop? Because don't forget, 2 minimum stops are required in this race, and there will also be 1 safety car. So if people are waiting for that safety car, they are playing a very big game of chess at the moment.
Yeah, they certainly are. Looking at Michael Hammond up on screen, he's continuing to extend that margin ever so slightly on Joshua Burton. The only issue is he's not extending the gap over that driver in the orange, purple, and white. And I would get excited about this pass, but at this point, it just feels like a foregone conclusion that this will be an easy pass for Josh Rogers. And goodbye, Dylan Carroll. You are now demoted to 5th spot. Josh Rogers, 17 positions gained. You want to ask why this guy is a VRS GT World Champion? Well, if you don't know by the end of this broadcast, then I'm afraid I don't have an answer for you. Because he is lapping some 0.2 of a second quicker than your race leader, whilst making overtakes go a lot easier than the 839 car of James Mackay is making them look. Because he is just getting all kinds of out of shape. And of course, he is driving with one hand at the moment. He broke his other in a go-karting accident. So he is doing it the tough way. And it is so difficult to race with an injury when you've got something like that going on, Cam. But he's doing a good job regardless.
Yeah, for sure. It's not easy to race one-handed, especially when you have to also shift gears with either a shifter or pedals. It's makes it a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit difficult, but he's done a really, really good job nevertheless to have to put up with the pain and also anything else that he's possibly got going on in his head. So really, really good driving there from McKee, but at the moment, it's looking like Rogers at the moment is still fighting up front, really trying to find more pace out of that car and still hunting down everybody else.
Yeah, he certainly is, as is Jake Byrne at the moment. He's trying to make his way through, but look at the gaggle of cars right to the outside, almost squeezed into the wall there by Josh Haynes, who was really putting up an aggressive fight there. And just the early pit stop for Jake Burton is hurting so much at this point. We know he's got the pace, we know he's got the potential, but he doesn't have the clear track. And in racing, that is such a talking point. When you have that clean air, being able to run those laps, being able to extend the margin and pace you have, it is just not happening because he's stuck with drivers who are perhaps not on his level at the moment. And Josh Haynes, Liam Jacobs, and Stefan Cotreno are all involved in this battle pack at the moment, and it's great to see. And I'm looking forward to staying with this battle to see how this all unfolds down Conrod Straight. But at the moment, I might not even go to Conrod Straight. Liam Jacobs was looking very aggressive, heading into Forest Elbow, and we will go to a Motorsport simulation replay because Joshua Carroll Walden has had just the smallest of accidents there and has found himself in the wall. But we will go back to this battle pack and we'll see how this does go because Stefan is having to defend very heavily from Liam Jacobs, who gets closer and closer in the slipstream, even some headlight flashes as well. But I have to say, I'm very surprised Jake Burton not able to make anything happen as Stefan gets absolutely lunged, contact is made, and the 33 and the 32, well, they might have identical numbers in form of going in a row, but they are very much not playing for any kind of respect at the moment. Jake Burton up the inside, and Josh Haynes makes that one a lot easier than he did at the cutting, Mia.
Yep, he just, all he had to do was send it, and he did lick stamp and sent. And Stefan has gone for the pits, but now that means Jake Burton's only got one car to overtake, and he's got a full, nearly 2-second bit of clean air before he catches up to Jake Littles of 16th spot. So, but at the moment, I think Anton Di Pasquale's actually called it a night, sadly. I think I've just seen him drop out of the service, so he might be our first of one of the big DNFs here tonight, sadly.
Well, absolutely, but at the moment, Michael Hammond doing everything he needs, just running his own laps, just doing what he has to do, keep the car nice and clean. And, well, if anything happens to Josh Rogers, then that is all going to be to the advantage of Michael Hammond, who has broken away 1.5 seconds over Joshua Burton, as we do have Anton Di Pasquale as a retirement in this race. So one driver is down in the regards of the real life pro drivers. So the top pro driver we have at the moment is going to be Dylan O'Keefe, who's in 6th spot. So shout out to the guys at TCR Australia. Your boy is doing you very proud at the moment and actually closing a little bit on the guys in front. So we'll see what he can do over the next few laps, but it is going to be interesting to see how Josh Rogers can make some more passes stick, because he is now past Bailey Sweeney. and rapidly closing onto the back of Joshua Burden for Fusion Sim Racing. FSR versus Coanda SimSport. I like Fusion Sim Racing very much, but Coanda are just a juggernaut of sim racing. They are the team that everyone has a target on. They are the pinnacle at the moment for what they are achieving, the success they are able to chase, and just their execution in races are absolutely flawless. And Cam, I'll let you talk through this one because Josh Rogers might be able to execute just another pass.
Yes, he will, and not gonna lie, it's gonna be a very easy pass at this point with the way that it's looking. Clears Joshua Byrne before they even get to the apex of the corner, and just also point that out, he's up to second, and his last lap was sub 2 minutes, so he is absolutely flying at the moment.
Not bad being under 2 minutes whilst doing a pass at the same time. Lap traffic almost getting involved there and almost contact with Josh Rogers, and that could have been very sketchy. That could have been a nightmare there. But the only nightmare on track at the moment is in Michael Hammond's head, because there is a very quick purple Mercedes up on screen chasing him down. But Motum Simulation Replay, Gian Cordero is getting right in the way of Rogers, and he had to be very lucky there not to collect your second place man at the moment. So he gets away with that one, and so does Rogers, who was 1.7 seconds at the line behind Michael Hammond, already down to 1.4 and ticking down consistently. So if I was Michael Hammond, I would almost consider doing a pit stop now, because you know if Rogers gets in the slipstream, he's got to get past you. So don't give him that slipstream advantage, Mia. Make sure that he has to do it the hard way in clean air.
Exactly. Do you want him to try and, you want to try and slow him up, let him pass you the hard way, or pit and let him have it the easy way? Because at the moment, I think Cameron would be thinking either would be good, because at the moment he will lose his lead no matter what, and he will not pit this up. Same thing with Rogers, so that the gap. But they will have. We've got a number 43 car has made contact with, looks like he's letting cars go, but he's trying to do it. And he made contact with Brad Ryan, so that'll sort of affect Brad Ryan's race.
Oh dear, there has been a little bit of an incident at the cutting, and I have to say that is cutting it fine for Tim Hampshire there. How has he got in that precarious situation there? We'll get a replay up on screen at the moment, and I'm very intrigued to see, because he has just turned into the corner, spun it around, and hello, I'm in the wall, and I think he's been collected by another car. Nope, he has just defied physics, and we know, Cam, for a fact that defying physics is always the quickest time around a racetrack.
It is, but not exactly in that fashion. That's probably the slowest way around the racetrack. But nevertheless, Bailey Sweeney at the moment on screen trying to hunt down Joshua Burden. Burden nearly had to go defensive into Griffin's Bend earlier on, so Sweeney had to slot in behind. But Sweeney doing a relatively good job to be in 4th position at the moment. Started 6th, so doing quite well. Not a very well-known sim racer, but definitely making a name for himself in this race so far, with obviously doing it very, very well inside that top 5 at the moment. You can see not quite close enough at the moment to make a move. Got very close under brakes into the forest elbow. Pulled one extra gear as well on the downshift to try and get the drive off the corner, but it hasn't quite helped him, getting too much wheel spin.
Oh, and James Mackey is not having a great time. And, well, you saw on the back of the sponsorship there, mild 3.5%. Well, I think I wouldn't give it a 3.5%. I'd just give it a 3.5 out of 10 for acrobatics there. James Mackay spins it around and just gets stuck in an awkward spot where he can't really drive forward, because he's just going to drive head-on into another car. And that's all going to go a little bit wrong if he tried that. So good job there by James Mackey. But more importantly, Michael Hammond dived into the pits, and that was the right thing to do, because the gap came down to 0.5 of a second, and that did give Rogers the slipstream advantage. And I have to say, that got him down to a 59.7, so that was very, very close between him and his fastest lap. So he is on max attack right now as Josh Rogers. He has to maximize his next few laps. The only issue is that Chris J. Williams, a bit of lap traffic is ahead, as is Luke Sullivan. So for Rogers, he won't get the clean air he desired. He will potentially get held up, though. The race is now 20 minutes in, so if you haven't taken your first pit stop yet, the time to do so could be very, very close, Mia.
Exactly, and also as well, Rogers is the only driver in the entire field lapping the under 2 minute mark. The one closest to him in the top 10 last lap was Dylan O'Keefe with 2 minutes lap 0.8, so at the moment, Rogers is the car. He is the pace of the field and the one to beat. So all he's got to do now is try and get past this lap traffic and pit, have a clean entry, have a clean stop, and hopefully he will come out in front of Michael Hammond.
Well, that's going to be the goal for Josh Rogers, but whether or not he is able to do that, that is the question. We'll have to hold our breath and see what we can do. I'm seeing Peter Benjamin in the YouTube chat saying it's hammer time. Well, I think that's a pretty accurate way of it happening at the moment. It has to be hammer time for Josh Rogers. 59.7, you can see on screen there, was his quickest time. Michael Hammond there pushed very hard over the top of the hill, but Rogers getting lucky with traffic. And can you believe it? Everything's going against Michael Hammond at the moment, because Rogers is actually getting a slipstream there, which is not helping him out at all. So Chris J. Williams gets out of the way nicely, and that's not what Michael Hammond wanted. He wanted Rogers to be under maximum attack. So will Rogers respond immediately? The answer is yes, he does. And onto the very tricky pit lane, right out to the grass, flicks it in across the grass on the other side, and then brake hard for the pit lane. So Rogers makes his way through, and I have to say the advantage is properly towards him. A 59.2 lap time. Of course, he was through the pit lane, but you can slightly straight line the final corner, so that could explain the lap time to some degree. But regardless, a great time on an in-lap there for Rogers. But it will be Josh Burton who goes on to lead this race at the moment, but it's not the effective lead. That is between Michael Hammond and Joshua K. Rogers. Rogers off the jacks now and trundles his way down the pit lane towards the caution cones, which signify the pit limiter can come off, and away you can go. And it's going to be very close, but not close enough, because out of nowhere, Cam, Michael Hammond is demoted to second.
Yeah, Rogers with a very, very clean pit stop there to get back into the lead of the race. And now Jake Burns back into this possibly. He's not too far behind Michael Hammond, so could have a three-way fight for the lead of this race very, very shortly if Rogers obviously slows down, which he probably won't. But nevertheless, the two behind Michael Hammond and Jake Burns will definitely go toe-to-toe at some point. But at the moment, those current leaders of Bailey Sweeney and Joshua Burns still going at it for been a few laps now, so they'll still be going at it. Probably start to see them come to the pits at some point as well to make their first compulsory pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm just seeing as well that Bathurst 1000
And he's
official
done it, and
have
Burns
managed.
on the wall.
Oh no, out of nowhere it's all gone completely wrong. Motorsport simulation replay up on screen. I was about to comment that the Bathurst 1000 official page have shared our video. Unfortunately, it's all gone a bit wrong in the 1000 for Jake Burton there. And we're seeing an incident, and they're just trying to go the other way around, and Joshua Burton really had to be careful there, and he's lost the lead out of that as well. So the 60 car has been absolutely ruined, and we'll have to see if he can regain that, but that is a big loss for him. And it's going to be very tricky for him to regroup on Bailey Sweeney as they both dive into the pits on this lap. So they're both deciding enough is enough, and the fuel cap probably suggests that 12 laps is the maximum you can do. So for these drivers back into the pits, and they will probably rejoin third and fourth effectively, unless that hurt Josh Burton more than we thought, Mia.
Yeah, but also as well, that fight for what is effectively second at the moment is now heating up, because Hammond is within striking distance. Well, Burton is within striking distance of Hammond at the moment. 0.4 seconds at the line. But at the moment, it will be the pace of Rogers still leading this race at the moment. That is it. So now, Hammond and Burton are effectively second and third on track, and also for the stops. Up Mountain Straight they come. Burton is within the slipstream range. He is gaining and gaining quick. Will he send it into Griffin's Bend? Hammond will protect. And no, it won't happen. Burton will slide back a little bit here. Through Griffin's Bend they come. Oh, but Hammond's a bit sideways. Let's give it Burton the grip. The room side by side. The cutting. Who will be most of it? They're thawing. Oh, Burton to the wall. Got Hammond, but no, they're still going. They're both to the wall. They're all in the fence, but they still go on. Hammond 0.4 ahead now, but they've still got Solomon Park and Skyline to deal with. Yeah, and we saw these two in the qualifying race just a few moments before. They were getting very close, very aggressive against one another, and the motion replay up on screen shows Michael Hammond very out of shape. Burton just got the run, got the drive, and had to go the long way around the outside of the cutting, and so close into the wall he went. And that was big hit, and again, potentially suspension damage
for Jake Burton with that kind of a hit into the wall. But if we believe 12 laps was the maximum you can do on a tank of fuel, that does... Oh, no! Michael Hammond is gone! Contact for Jake Burton as well! And up and over goes the driver of the 53 AMG. And if there wasn't suspension damage before, well, I can tell you there is now. And if he didn't need a fast repair before, well, he also does now. I was going to say, if 12 laps is the max he can do on a tank of fuel, well, then he still had another 5 laps to go before he could pit and still make it to the end. But that just about confirms he will have to do 2 pit stops to the end from now as well. And that was just a little bit of contact there. Michael Hammond, not much he could have done. And Burton's off the road of the chase again as well. So that has opened the floodgates for Josh Rogers very nicely. And he will be in a brilliant spot to take home this race win. Jake Burton dives into the pits, no surprise at all, but it's actually Michael Hammond who's suffering a lot more, and I'm looking at the steering angle of that poor car. He is in all kinds of trouble, and he is not making that to the finish from here either, so disaster for them. Matthew Trotman dives into the pits as well, so the pit lane's still a hive of activity, Cam, but that was race-changing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It was massive moment, and hopefully that it probably shouldn't affect it too much because we've still got a competition caution, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. We could have a competition caution. That is one thing the organizer of this event did say they were happy to do. Now, talking that Josh Rogers is just way too quick. He is too overpowered. And if he got into the lead too far ahead, they might even just give him a drive-through penalty or something of that nature. So we'll see what happens to Rogers. If they do decide to penalize him, slow him down, or as I like to call it, a little bit of balance of performance as well. But great to see so many of you guys getting active in the Facebook chat, and it's all very, very good discussion as well. So big thank you to all of you guys, and we'll see if we can get a bit more of action going on for your race lead. And I'm trying to almost suggest to the admins at this point, penalize Rogers. We can have a great battle on our hands, because at the moment Bailey Sweeney would then become your effective race leader, but he is being closed down ever so slightly by Joshua Byrne behind, who we know is a very competitive driver in all kinds of cars, Cam.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's no such in any sort of car. Very, very decent driver in a number of cars, like you said. He's one of those dark horses where you don't really expect him to be that quick, but he actually is quite a bit quicker than you think. So definitely someone to keep an eye on in this race. But nevertheless, it's going to be a very, very interesting finish to see what happens if they do penalise Rogers, as that was a big moment for one of the cars of, I think it was Stefan Catronio, into McPhillamy Park. So big moment hitting at the outside wall. We'll get a Modem Simulations replay because that was a massive moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happened here. Getting very racy into the cutting at the moment for Stefan Cotroneo, and he just almost got into the wall there, and he's creating a bit of a check up behind. So they make their way through this very quick section of track at the moment, making their way through, contact with the inside wall, little wiggle, and suspension damage. Hello, big hit there for the 33 car, and that will be race done for Stefano there. So unlucky for him to have his race come to an end, because he had been making some good progress and involved in some good fights as well. But one driver who is making up some ground is Scott McLaughlin, who's still some 43 seconds off your race lead. But more importantly than that, he has been making some nice ground to the tune of almost 20 positions from his starting grid. Of course, he jumped himself all the way down to a pit lane start for this feature race. So he's had to do it the hard way, but he is making some ground now. And we're just keeping an eye on Jay Cool and Phil Letchford. And we saw Phil earlier in the practice session, I think it was, have a monster accident. So he'll be hoping to put that in the back of his mind and chase down Jay Cool for 6th, which would be a remarkable comeback meal.
Yeah, it will be. He is closing. He's got a 9-second gap back to Brad Newman, but if he was him, he would try and get past Cool as fast as he can. He's now within half a second of them through Forest Hill where they come. Now in front of them, they've got O'Keefe and Carroll. They're going to be involved in a fight here soon. Cool just put 2 wheels in the grass, Gisbergen style, but that won't help you here. Down Conrad they come. He's within slipstream range, is Letford, but it won't make him go for a move into the chase here. Not close enough. Break at the 150 metre board, or later if you want, through the chase they come. But as you can see, they are actually closing up the pair in front of Carroll and O'Keefe, so this could this could affect what would be a top 5 result for these two drivers. But at the moment, Lexford is only focusing on Cool as they come across the line now.
Well, in the Facebook comment section, we did have Will Brown wanting to get involved as well. And if you want to get involved, it's all open. Anyone can join. You can get involved in kind of action. As you can see, Brad Ryan gets out of shape there on the inside curb. But if you do want to get involved, all you need is an active iRacing subscription. And from there, anyone can enter. It's just first in, first served. And you can find yourself racing with Jake Byrne, who goes for a massive move into the final corner. Never going to make that apex. And it all goes a little bit south. And that does give the advantage to the driver. He is fighting whether he can get a cutback and get that spot back, whether or not. The answer is going to be no. So Jake Burton, of course, used to compete in the Toyota 86 series, does no longer, but is showing that real-world experience does pay off, and being aggressive is sometimes the way to do it, Cam.
Yeah, 100%. Very, very big move there. Obviously missed the apex, so he's done some apex hunting there, but nevertheless, he's got the move done and got the position. So he'll still be using that real-life world experience of racing at Bathurst in the Toyota 86 series to his advantage, but at the moment, he's still got quite a few cars to pass. Still got that competition caution, remember, that we've got to get through. So going to close this field up eventually, and a lot of drivers still get to make that second pit stop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that second pit stop could shake this race up a little bit further. Oh, I just seen a car in the background there go for a big hit just behind driver Scott McLaughlin. It was Luke Sullivan, who's had a monster shunt at the top of the hill, and that is something we see so often. And he just got too much aero push, said hello to the concrete, and eventually the car would rotate. Motorsport simulation replay up on screen, and you can see here that he's just carrying so much speed behind Scott McLaughlin, trying to follow the same line. And the car said, no, enough is enough. Hard into the wall and bang again. And if the engine didn't blow then, well, it has now. The car is smoking on the top of the mountain. And he's going to still continue to try and get the car to the pit lane. But that is smoking the Bandit if I've ever seen it, Mia.
Yep, that's a very smoky car. A sad way to end your race, but at the moment, Scott McLaughlin has just moved his way up into the top 10. He is now in 10th place. He just got past Ben McMillan. So he's on a charge, and he is trying to catch up to that number 92 machine. It was in the lead at the moment. So we are on our 17th lap of this 30-lap race. They are getting close to their second pit stop. They can make it, I would be guessing, if they want to, in the next few laps, around lap 24, 25, they could stop and get it home from there. But at the moment, McLaughlin is on a charge.
Yeah, he certainly is, but I reckon they could take the pit stop a little bit earlier. We are now 34-minute mark in this race, and we are seeing some drivers split it into 20-minute segments for these two pit stops, so they might be attacking it that way, which means we could see pit stops in the next 3 laps, which is very, very interesting to see. But Scott McLaughlin is continuing his charge, but Ben McMillan isn't making life easy. I have to say, if there's going to be a favourite livery of mine, I think I'm going to give it to Ben McMillan, because Hello Kitty, well, it always gets a good vote, Cam.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the most brightest liveries out there, and you definitely can't miss that out on track with its bright pink and white of the Hello Kitty logo. So very, very interesting to see. A number of different and interesting liveries to see out here on track, but that's one that definitely stands out the most, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, but it's not helping him go much faster at the moment. Scott McLaughlin really pulling away at the moment, but he has some lap traffic in the form of Will Newell just in front of him, who's holding him up an absolute tree, looking each way with Scott McLaughlin nowhere to go. And I think Will Newell might just make Scott McLaughlin race for this position. You can see he's swiping left, swiping right, like he's on an app that I'm not going to mention, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. But regardless, Scott McLaughlin V-powers his way into the position. And a good move there for him, of course, plugging the sponsors there, not referring to that app at all. I'm going to move on because Josh Rogers continues to lead this race by 14 seconds at the moment. But Josh Burton has been closing up quite nicely over the last few laps. 0.4 of a second last time around. FSR's driver is not giving up just yet.
Is we've got a replay on screen, but like you said, of James McKee, the replay, having that moment out of Forest Elbow, unfortunately, in the wall once again. But like you said, Joshua Byrne for Fusion Sim Racing driver. Not giving up just yet. He's still got some relatively decent pace under him at the moment. A little bit quicker than Bailey Sweeney that last time by. So Burden clearly doing a very, very good job. Possibly just sitting behind and fuel saving a little bit just to help him get that little bit extra quicker in that second pit stop. But not entirely sure. It doesn't sound like he's fuel saving, but we will have to listen and find out later on down into Conrad, for example. But still hunting down that car of Bailey Sweeney at the moment and doing a really good job.
Yeah, doing a lot better than James Mackay was. We saw a modem simulation replay there and was very much in the wall of Scott McLaughlin, or is it James Hunt in the pits? I'm not quite sure. Of course, Scotty sporting the James Hunt livery helmet on iRacing. Brad Ryan and Jake Burton involved in a battle down Mountain Straight, but nowhere to go. But also Josh Burton is in a battle as well, and this is going to be very, very close into the chase. Does Josh Burton want to go for it around the outside? He thought about it, but thinks better of it, as that's going to be a bit too wide there for Bailey Sweeney. Doesn't make the apex, and that's going to slow him down all the way into the final corner. Has to defend a little bit. Will the Fusion Sim Racing driver go for the lunge? The answer is no. But this could get very racy down Mountain Straight. Bailey Sweeney has all the work to do at the moment to hold on to second place, as Josh Rogers laps within a 1/10 of a second of his fastest currently. There is no catching him. 16 seconds out to the good at the moment. But can Josh Burton put any kind of move on Bailey Sweeney? Sweeney got a great run through turns 1, and that is really benefiting him. And I think he could be safe down Mountain Straight, so he's going to get away with it, which is good news for him, as Jake Byrne and Brad Ryan come into the pits at the same time to take their, well, second and third stops. Jake Byrne, of course, on his third stop now after being involved in multiple incidents. So for Burton, it's going to be a very long final stint, and he is going to plummet down the order quite considerably. I'm seeing another driver spot on the pit, not pit lane, but on the front start-finish line. That was Daniel Smith, who went for a bit of a ride, who's had a quiet race so far, and the car has almost no damage, so he's clearly doing this race quite wrong, and he needs to get the elbows out a bit more, Cam.
Yeah, he certainly does. He needs to be a bit more brash with his panels and doors on the racetrack. As saw a puff of smoke there through the cutting. I don't believe what that was, or maybe possibly could be Burton having some technical issues, but still hunting down that car of Bailey Sweeney's. Not quite close enough. He just doesn't quite have the pace at the moment. About half a second difference quicker though, so really not entirely sure. Might be dealing with a little bit of damage as well that possibly could be hampering him. So we'll have to see what happens in the pit stop and whether he can possibly jump Bailey Sweeney or not.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the question, but at the moment there is no answer for Bailey Sweeney. At the moment, he just continues to keep the car ahead of Josh Byrne. That's what he has to do, but it is a great question. When do these two decide to dive into the pits, and is there anything they can do? The answer is that Josh Rogers dives into the pits, as does Bailey Sweeney. That was a late call. Has to make sure he pulls it up into the pit entry, which he does. But Josh Rogers into the pits, and what I want to know is he going to balance the performance himself, or is someone going to have to do it for him? The answer is someone's going to have to do it for him. So all the drivers, I would love to see you take out Rogers and make him work for this. I definitely did not just say that on broadcast, but we'll go with it anyway. Bailey Sweeney in an effective position number 2 at the moment, but has to work hard. Josh Burton has to have the in-lap of his life now if he wants to respond. He's got Dylan O'Keefe, who's at a much quieter feature race just behind, and good to see the TCR Australia driver having a great showing at the moment in the top 5, Mia.
Yeah, exactly. He was actually catching up to Dylan Carroll as well in front. They were both catching up to the pair of Burton and Sweeney before as well. But at the moment, the way it's going, it'll still be a top 5 place for O'Keefe. But these two have got it, and guess what? Competition caution is out. So for Burton and O'Keefe, this will throw a massive spanner into the works with their strategy, because it has given their racing counterparts the biggest spanner, or the biggest gap they'll have, because now these two have got to pitch and lose so much time compared to what Carroll and Sweeney will get. So they've still got to do a lap under the caution because pit is closed.
Well, this changes the face of the race entirely, and this is going to make things very interesting indeed. And we know they should be taking 2 pit stops, but I wonder if you could almost fuel save enough to bypass that second stop entirely if you were fuel saving right from the start to maximize both stint. So some drivers that have gone for quite a longer game could be benefiting very, very soon here. But for Josh Byrne, it's not likely to be benefiting him. It will benefit Josh Rogers and Bailey Sweeney, though. They will both file their way to the first and second once pit stops are finally taken. But there are a lot of question marks this is now thrown up. With the pit lane being closed, iRacing using an American NASCAR system of safety cars. So you have to get the entire field condensed before you can pit. It's not like anything we see here in Australia, where drivers can actually dive in whenever they want. And I want to give a quick shout out to Daniel Smith as well. I just saw him hit the wall under safety car.
That's not exactly the thing you want to be doing under safety car, is clobbering that concrete wall on during some of these corners. But we'll get a replay of it. Motion Simulations replay on screen right now. You can see just turning in a little bit too early and clipping the wall on the inside, really well on the outside, sorry, of Forest Elbow. So a little bit deep into the corner, but managed to keep on going. He'll be able to make his second stop and get a fast pit if he really has to, if it's too bad. But at the moment, you can see that the pace car is in the Griffin's Bend, or coming out of Griffin's Bend, and the field's starting to condense. Currently, the likes of Dylan O'Keefe and also Joshua Byrne leading this pack. They will have to stop, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going through the comment section on the Hype Project. Of course, great to have the Hype Project sponsoring this event as well. And Andrew Smith asking what the game is called. It is iRacing.com, and all you need is a subscription to this site. Doesn't cost much. You can do all kinds of different payment plans to make it happen. And once you've got it, well, you're just about free to race anything as long as you buy the cars and tracks. Once you've got that, you are free to go and enter this series. You can race door to door with Scott McLaughlin, Shane Van Gisbergen, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, you name them. They are on here. And also the likes of Alex Albon, who recently signed with Red Bull Racing. Well, he's on here as well. And that is one of the beautiful things as well about this, is so many drivers that race in the real world can relate back and go back to sim racing. And you really have that connection of both worlds, the virtual and the real world, come together for events like this. Because at the moment, across the line with the safety car, Josh Byrne, a sim racer for Fusion Sim Racing, leads ahead of Dylan O'Keefe, racing for Alfa Romeo in TCR Australia. So that is a beautiful example right off the bat. And even have in fourth place Joshua K. Rogers, your effective race leader, VRS GT World Championship winner, of course, last time out at Sebring. And I saw one of the comments said, how is he always out in front all the time? Well, Mia, I'm asking the same question, to be honest.
I think we all ask that same question. How is he out in front every race that he does? Well, at the moment he's P4, he's the effective race leader from strategy, and as the pace car now leads the field down the mountain straight, pit road will be open this time by, and it will also be one to go, as the iRacing caution system works, especially here at Mount Panorama, is 2 laps of caution. So you get the first to bunch everything up and also get the pit lane open, and that second lap is the one to go. So you'll have the likes of Burton, O'Keefe, Newmans, all of those drivers that have not pitted, they will take this chance to pit, and I will have a very likely bet that Mr. Joshua K. Rogers will get the lead and possibly skirt away from the rest of the field.
Well, I'd like to see it go a lot different to that, and if any of the admins are watching this, I still think there is enough time for a drive-through penalty, as I am seeing race is actually letting some drivers get waved through the pace car, so that's good news for them. But a drive-through penalty, I think, could really spice this race up and really make Josh Rogers work for it and see what he can do. But as expected, we are getting a flurry of activity into the pit lane. Josh Bird and Dylan O'Keefe dives in. Jay Cool as well as Brad Newman are all making their way in, and the field will be led away by a Mustang in a race with Scott McLaughlin. I know the Penske guys are going mad at the moment. The only issue is the Mustang is the pace car, and it's actually a Mercedes leading at the moment in the hands of Joshua K. Rogers. You can see some drivers are getting waved by, and I have to say that was one of the quickest wave bys I've ever seen by Glenn Wood. He was flying in that front straight, and I think the FIA or CAMS might want to have a bit of a word with him about safety car procedures, Cam.
Yeah, and I've also just seen that there was a shunt on the front
Oh,
straight
no.
further back in the field as well. So a couple of issues going on under safety car. Clearly, not quite everybody understanding the way that the safety car protocol works. And like you said, Cam, if I may or may not need to have talked to a few drivers, but
I think the safety
even
cars
less-
ended up more dangerous than the actual race.
yeah, I think it has actually with how many shunts we've seen under safety cars so far. Obviously, drivers hitting walls and all that sort of stuff. But nevertheless, we'll see what this sort of restart can handle because you've got a few drivers in there who are relatively quick and a little bit down the order where they should be, but also a few drivers who are in very good positions as well. So really going to be interesting to see who comes away with what in this restart and whether we see any spectacular shunts or not.
Well, if you are just joining us, welcome to SimSpeed TV for what is the Tuesday night special. There's no iRating, no series standings, but there is plenty of trash talk and a whole lot of good times with some of Australia's best racing car drivers going up against the best sim racing drivers, all in the name of fun and good old-fashioned race. Of course, this wouldn't be possible without the guys at Simworx Simulators, Serious Virtual Motorsport, and of course Wolfchester Trade Shop, and the Hype project as well. Great to see everyone being so supportive of this. Of course, it is the first time this has been broadcasted, but not the first time it has been run. In the first round, the Mercedes at Spa-Francorchamps circuit, we had the likes of Lando Norris, Max Verstappen as well, diving into the action. So if you are watching and thinking this is just great for Australian motorsport, well, no, absolutely not. There is international flavor as well, which is great to see. Of course, I mentioned earlier, Alex Albon recently signed up, as did Carlos Sainz as well. So no matter what Formula One team you support, you've probably got a driver there as well, unless you support Mercedes AMG, in which case, well, I just support Valtteri Bottas and have some porridge. But in the meantime, the safety car is expected to come in at the end of this lap, which should be very exciting indeed. Joshua K. Rogers is leading at the moment, and unfortunately there is still 2 to green. I should know that because there are flashing lights on the safety car, and flashing lights is what I'm known for. And did the safety car just have a massive shunt, Mia?
Yeah, I think it's a someone who told the pace car driver to go to take the line through there hasn't really told the correct line because they've gone through the wall, and I think they go through the wall, especially at the cutting. But you know they haven't correctly trained the pace car in proper pace car practice. And
We're
I
just
think we're
looking
going
at
to
a
replay.
Yeah, it was just look at Scott McLaughlin at the moment, who's just going past some drivers under the safety car. This would be the wave around, and we'll see. Oh, he's got massive rear ends there. One of the Mercedes AMG has just caused a giant kerfuffle.
I will. Oh, go on. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that he's probably got a bit of red mist right now, and if you're in a Penrite shirt with Erebus sponsorship, you might want to be a little bit careful right now because there's a very fired up Kiwi.
Yeah, well, Cam did alert to it before that there was a crash on the front straight, and I was going to pipe up and say that McLaughlin was involved, but sadly I didn't get the chance to. But yes, McLaughlin was sadly involved in that wreck and is now sadly out of the race tonight. So that means that our highest placed real-life driver at the moment would be Dylan O'Keefe. He's really the only one still in the race because Di Pasquale is gone sadly, and now our latest tragedy, Mr. Scott McLaughlin.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Scotty, it's all going a little bit pear-shaped for him. A bit like his 2017 Bathurst, and I'm about to get abused by a bunch of Penske supporters on the Facebook page. So my Facebook page is Bo Albert Esports. Please inbox me. It would help my promotion quite nicely. That was the worst self-promotion ever. Look at this gaggle of cars down the front straight as everyone's trying to get wave arounds. It is causing a giant checkup. And I would not be surprised to see another shunt on the front straight. We are getting closer and tighter action. Oh, it's a double file restart, and this is going to be absolutely incredible, Cam.
I've got no words.
I will like to
total chaos.
I will like to say this though to the multiple amount of people watching on the Bathurst 1000 official page and TCR Australia. You are about to watch a NASCAR style start out Mount Panorama. For the people that say supercars should have double file restarts, I want you to show them this clip when we are done with this restart because it will be the biggest amount of crashes you will see into turn 1 you can quote me on that one right now.
Oh, this is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and this is a perfect opportunity for Bailey Sweeney here to get an advantage on Joshua Rogers and really take the fight here. And, well, this is going to be very exciting. I've never seen a double file restart at Bathurst, and that's probably for good reason, but hey, let's try it anyway. And the drivers are probably going side by side in places they didn't know you could on this formation lap. So it's going to be very, very exciting to see. Only 22 cars remain on the lead lap that is about to become 20, as a couple of drivers have now retired from the race. So there has been a very high attrition rate, which probably isn't too surprising here, as they're all racing on default setups. The machinery is identical for all the cars as well. So it is going to be very interesting to see who can maximize their equipment the best they can and end up winning a brilliant 1 hour race here at Mount Panorama. The clock strikes with 8 minutes remaining. The lights are out on the safety car, and a double file restart all the way into Hell Corner is about to unfold as Jake Burton makes his own creative interpretation of track limits. This is going to be an extremely exciting restart that you don't want to miss. We don't do this kind of format every night, but if you do want to see much more serious, much more action-packed racing, be sure to subscribe at SimSpeed TV, like the Facebook page, and you will be able to keep up to date with all of the action here as the pace car once again just gets that awesome drift through Forest Elbow and gets a sick grind on the wall. And I'm going to stop talking like I know anything about skateboarding or anything about terminology, but what I do know is a very exciting restart is about to take place. You can see the field absolutely bunched at the moment, with 20 Mercedes AMGs equal equipment about to unleash on Mount Panorama for a brilliant restart. We are only expecting 4 laps to go. Some drivers could be fuel critical. Some might have to fuel save. Some might be on maximum attack with nothing to lose. You look to the likes of Dylan O'Keefe, of course, he was very much in the top 5 a little bit earlier, ruined by the safety car, finds himself in 11th. The same can be said for Bailey Sweeney as well. A lot of drivers looking for redemption, a lot of drivers wanting to make redemption. Jake Burton, of course, has been involved in a lot of scuffles in this race, but this is a perfect opportunity for him to make his way back onto the podium. The pace car accelerates away and will get ready to unleash control to Joshua Rogers. What can he do on this restart? He is a master of endurance racing, but in the VRS GT Championship, there's no safety cars. This is a new experience for him in GT racing. Bailey Sweeney has a great shot to go with him if he can nail the restart reaction, and indeed he does. Michael Hammond tried to make something of it, but there's no opportunity there as it gets very out of shape there. Was one of the drivers as they try and restart now. I think that was Matthew Trotman, who's going to immediately relinquish the spot to Jake Burton into turn number 1, and aggressive they go. Jake Burton already up a spot, but loose on the exit, and that's going to give an advantage to Dylan Carroll behind as they fight their way down Mountain Straight. Rogers has streaked away as we perhaps expected, so all plain sailing for him, but the mid-pack is not going to be plain sailing. They're 2-3 wide in some cases. Burton managed to hold onto the position, but in the background, I think that's Joshua Burton going for a big lunge there on Brad Newman, who gets forced absolutely wide and will now go side by side into the cutting. Plenty of action going on as it's going to get very aggressive for Andre Burrell, who makes the pass stick on Jack Widders as well. So lots of action going on at the moment, but surprisingly clean, Cam.
Yes, so far everybody's managed to make it through the first lap so far. A couple of drivers going too wide over the top of the mountain, and currently Dylan Carroll at the moment going for a move. He's lost 2 spots, sorry, 1 to Michael Hamilton and another to Matthew Trotman, so not doing it too great. Hamilton, there's going to be a big shunt at the skyline. There's going to be multiple cars, everybody trying to make a big action, but looking like there's a big pile up at the dipper.
Well, I was going to say he's in the fence. Then I was going to say they're both in the fence. I eventually decided to say they're all in the fence. A massive shunt there. Jay Cool has lost his cool. And I have to stop making that joke. But we will get a modem simulation replay up on screen and try and decipher exactly what's going on here on board with Jay Cool as he plunges downhill. And at this point, if something happens, you just can't see cars rolling absolutely everywhere in front of him down the road. And it was eventually Dylan O'Keefe, so lucky not to roll down the mountainside was there. And unfortunately, Michael Hammond, one of the drivers involved in that, and he was so successful all race long, led the first 20 minutes just about. and eventually his race will come to an end here at the cutting, not the cutting, sorry, but downhill at the exit of Skyline, and Dylan O'Keefe with a big hit as well. So front wheel drive in his Alfa Romeo couldn't have even saved him there, and his night will come to an end as well. And we're hearing of another incident going on, and we'll get a modem simulation replay up on screen in just a moment. But in the meantime, Brad Ryan goes side by side down the front straight, which is going to be very, very exciting to see who can come out on top down Mountain Straight, in fact. And we do now have our modem simulation replay up on screen, and it involves third and fourth place at the time, Phil Letchford and Jake Burton. And I got a feeling Jake might have just unloaded him into that corner. Not quite. Goes for a cut back, and it's a bit of a tricky one. Phil, I think, was already losing momentum, already a little bit slow. The car just bounced, and I think the line that Jake was taking there probably just sent him into Phil. I don't think there was any malice there. I don't think, and yeah, the car was already unsettled, so it was really just Jake Burton who just finished off the job for that driver there. So unfortunate to see, but in the meantime, Josh Rogers already out to 2.2 second lead ahead of himself, Bailey Sweeney, Jake Burton, Matthew Trotman, and Brad Ryan. Your top five in regards to positions gained, as you're seeing something on track, Mia.
Yeah, Trent Harrison had a little bit of that rear of the car, just got unsettled going into the S's, and it just tipped the wall, but then has put him within striking distance of Burton behind. He's in 6th at the moment, he could lose it. Burton is behind, and he also got Andrew Borrell there. He's in 8th at the moment, he's looking and looking. He could get some more positions here. Down corner they come. Burton is within slipstream distance of Harrison. Into the chase they go. Flathead, he's going to look for a move there side by side. Who's going to give it up? Burton's there on the outside. He'll get the move done nice and easy, but oh, Harrison nearly got him as well. So there you go. Harrison loses another spot into 7th. He goes. Burton into 6th, and Brad Ryan is now in 5th and will stay there as well.
Well, in regards to movers and shakers, the biggest mover on track at the moment that is still running goes to 8th place at the moment. Andre Burrell, 23 spots have been gained by him at the moment. The biggest loser, unfortunately, goes to the driver of Anton De Pasquale. 33 positions lost for Anton, and no longer finds himself in the race. And Liam Jacob no longer finds himself on track, I don't think, because he's just completely turned the 15 car, sent him for a ride, took him for a little trip to the gravel, and said, all right, son, have a nice trip. I'm going to drop you off at kindergarten now and play in the sand pit, because that was a massive shunt, and Matthew Wall had nothing to do about that, meal.
Yeah, but he had nothing to do, nowhere to go, sadly. But at the moment, this battle for what is 6th place is still going on. It's around 4/10. The gap is staying there. We could be looking for a move. And now the battle for 2nd and 3rd is starting to heat up. Half a second between Sweeney and Burton as we come towards the last minute and a half of this race. So my guess would be we'll be getting our white flag this time by. But at the moment, Burton will want one more lap. He'd want another 2, really. He's looking and looking for a pass. He could get one here soon. He's within striking distance here. So next time will be the last lap.
Yeah, absolutely. So just 1.3 laps remaining according to our timing screen, but there will be a bit of an action-packed finale, because 2nd place, well, I'm not going to decide who's going to get it, because it's going to be fought out on the racetrack. Bailey Sweeney has been so dominant all race long in regards to podium spots. He's never really looked like he was going to lose a podium spot, and he's still not going to, but 2nd place on the podium is a lot better than 3rd on the podium, and Jake Burton looking up the inside can't do much with it though, so it's going to be all about what Jake Burton can do on this final lap. The clock strikes just about 0, but it will be the final lap right now. The final 6.3 kilometers of action here at Mount Panorama, and Jake Burton continues to apply the blowtorch on the back of Bailey Sweeney. What can he do? Side by side down Mountain Straight, and they're getting closer and closer to one another, almost knocking door mirrors off over the crest. Very close action between the two of them. Burton versus Sweeney, and it's Sweeney on the inside, and he's going to swoop on through. Burton going to try and set up the cutback, which would mean he'd go side by side into the cutting, but he can't do anything with it, so it's going to be about sitting and waiting for Conrad. And forget that, he dives up the inside. Can't do anything with it though, because you're not going to get anywhere from here unless you are so brave. Across the top, squeezing does Bailey Sweeney to the wall on Josh Burton. Competed in an Aussie Driver Search Toyota 86 series. and he is really trying to use all that experience in the real world around this track to good effect right now. But Bailey Sweeney just doing everything he can, everything right as well. But Conrad is going to be the biggest issue for him. There are so many ways to make a move. Sticker Conrad into the chase, and Jake Burton has plenty of aces up his sleeve to play, with the final card being played in just a few moments' time. Just 7 seconds up the road, but it's all gone downhill for Bailey Sweeney. He holds track position for now, but the straight line speed is going to be absolutely terrible, and Burton draws alongside, side by side down Conrad. Can there be any kind of offense for Ben Sweeney? He's got to get in the slipstream. He's got to attack into the chase, but it's not enough. He's losing speed, and unless it's a huge lunge into the chase, it's going to be game over, and Jake Burton will claim second place, but no one else looked like claiming the win tonight. From 21st on the grid, the man, the myth, the Rogers. He takes another win in dominant display, does Joshua Rogers, and at the greatest of great highs to the lowest of lows, Jake Burton snatches second place at the death, and it's going to be Bailey Sweeney ruining the mistake at the top of the mountain into the wall at Forest Elbow, and the 10 car dumped to third place at the end, but it's still a great result for him. And for our pro drivers who actually race in the real world, it hasn't been their night as well. The sim racers have come out in true force towards the end. It was all for fun at the end of the day, but what a show they managed to put on as well. Absolutely fantastic, Cam.
Absolutely awesome racing. You could not have asked for a better night of racing. Just action-packed throughout the field, all race long. In fact, in both races, in fact. So, yeah, really, really awesome event to put on, and can't wait for next time because it's going to be really interesting.
Yep, absolutely, and we will get your results up on screen in a few moments' time, and there you go. Joshua K. Rogers takes the win. Jake Burton in second, with Bailey Sweeney, Matthew Trotman, and Brad Ryan your top 5, and Josh Burton, Trent Harrison 6th and 7th. Burton probably a little bit disappointed with that one after the promise he showed in the race. Andre Burrell, who drove a brilliant race up 23 spots and will be the highest of your classified finishes to move up the most amount of spots. A great job there with Liam Jacobs and Jack Whitus, your top 10, Mia.
Yep, and then you go from there. You got Glenwood 11th, 12th will be Matthew Wall, 13th Josh Haynes, 14th Brad Newman, and 15th last car on the lead lap after an hour of amazing racing. Up what is 20 positions is Reese Lowe, and then you've got your cars 1 lap down or DNF, and your cars 1 lap down are Ben McMillan, Stefan Cordanello, and then Emerson Harvey, and then 19th on back, they are 2 laps down or further.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll scroll through the results there on screen as you can see where your favorite driver might have finished, because it was disaster for a couple. I'll just highlight some key names there. Of course, Dylan O'Keefe did get involved in that incident and did end up finishing quite some way down the finishing order in the end. Scott McLaughlin all the way down in 27th, just behind Dylan O'Keefe. And of course, another early casualty did go to Anton De Pasquale in 39th place as well. Justin Rougier didn't even make the first lap of the feature, involved in an incident in the qualifying race and called it a night. So a couple of big names there not having luck go their way. And for Scott McLaughlin and Anton De Pasquale, particularly when it comes to the Bathurst 1000 in just a couple of weeks' time, well, they're going to be hoping it goes a little bit better from that. But Cam, that was our first ever time covering on SimSpeed TV the Tuesday night special. What were your thoughts and what can we expect from the future for this series?
Honestly, awesome stuff. You can't not broadcast this again. I mean, after that sort of racing that we've had tonight, it's got to be done again, and it's going to be happening in the future as well. Awesome racing. You just can't beat it, especially with what's happened tonight.
Yep, absolutely. And Mia, of course, you haven't been in the commentary box for quite some time, so this was your first time back. So what a race to make a comeback.
What a race. With us not even knowing we'd be doing this tonight, you know, before midday today, I think it was one of the best choices I've made out of spite. It was what was the best hour of coverage we've ever had on this channel, period, because it was the most amazing racing you've seen. You've seen people throwing blocks, hitting doors. It was the most what you would call most pure racing I've seen so far. And wow, what a way to finish.
Absolutely, that was absolutely fantastic racing, and what better way to absolutely end this broadcast. But that's all of us here done for SimSpeed TV, but that's us done for the night, but not for the week. We'll be back for the best of our GT action tomorrow, Wednesday, Sprint Series Australasia at Road Atlanta, for what's going to be a bit of a Road Atlanta focused week for us here at the channel, because we also have on Sunday the first of the V8 Scops endurance races. And if you're unsure of what V8 Scops is, well, I'll let you know. It is essentially the real-world version of Australia Supercars Championship in virtual form, the best of the best, a pre-qualifying system which takes 120 drivers down to 80, splits them into essentially Super 2 and your main Supercars grid for what is going to be a spectacular show for the first of our endurance races in the Endurance Cup. And after Road Atlanta, the Bathurst 1000. So if you do want to see those two brilliant races coming up on the Scops calendar, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Give us a like on Facebook as well, because we also have action on Monday night with the official V8 Supercar Series brought to you by the guys at SimSpeed TV who have covered this event. But we wouldn't have been able to cover this event without the beautiful help of Simworx Simulators, who have some serious virtual motorsport equipment, Wolfchester Trade Shop and their great support, and of course the Hype Project, who so many of you have been watching through on Facebook. A quick shout out to Cam Dance, who has been a great commentator alongside me tonight. Cam Dance Motorsport on Facebook, if you want to look him up. Mia Ott did absolutely brilliantly tonight as well. You can find all their details on Twitter as well. And Bo Albert Esports, if you want to keep up to date with me on Twitter and Facebook as well. But for us, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got really outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God.